Hi, this is Nick Dawson, the editor-in-chief of Talkhouse Film, and you're listening to the Talkhouse Film podcast. First known as a quirky comic performer, Bobcat Goldthwait has redefined himself to the current generation of moviegoers, with films like Sleeping Dogs Lie, World's Greatest Dad, and God Bless America, establishing him as one of the most idiosyncratic and playfully provocative voices in American indie film. This year, he showed yet another side of himself with Call Me Lucky, his remarkable documentary about the cult comedian Barry Crimmins. I was fortunate enough to be at the film's Sundance premiere this past January, where I went in expecting a straightforward portrait of an underappreciated stand-up, but then found myself experiencing something infinitely more profound and moving. As I was looking for someone to chat with Goldthwait about Call Me Lucky, the excellent writer-director Lynn Shelton, best known for her movies Hump Day, My Sister's Sister, and Laggies, told me that she and Bobcat had recently become Twitter buddies. So, of course, it was a no-brainer to get them together for a chat on Skype, which you'll hear for the next 35 minutes or so. But be warned, if you don't want to hear spoilers about Call Me Lucky, or disclosures about the unlikely location of one of Bobcat's tattoos, the reason he used to wear silly hats while directing, and why the US is the People's Republic of Spring Break, then proceed with caution.
Hi, Bobcat.
Hi, this is really weird. So this lets people have the opportunity to eavesdrop on a conversation. Is that what we're doing?
I think so. I think that's the idea. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
that's we're a nation of voyeurs and finks. So it sounds perfect.
Yes, exactly.
I sound a little salty, don't I? I sound a little crabby, but or I don't know.
The quality of your voice? What do you mean?
I'm just a little. I shouldn't say I sound. I am a little crabby, but that's
Oh,
all right.
oh no.
No, I know. So how are you?
I'm good. You're in New York? Is that where you are? Or
I
you
am
elsewhere?
in New York, and
You're in
you're
New
in
York.
New York. We could do this face to face, but
I will. I'm not there yet. I'll be there tomorrow. I'm
oh,
going
okay.
yeah. So, but yes, I'm close behind you. Um, yeah. So I'm well. I'm pretty well. It's hard to really complain about what's going on in my life. You know, I feel like things are
Well,
good.
what's going on?
Well, I just got home from doing a bunch of TV directing that I really thoroughly enjoyed doing. It was exhausting, but also very satisfying. And then I'm writing away on some movies that I hope to actually get underway soon. So that's, exciting, an exciting prospect because I haven't been on my own set in a while. So
So
looking forward to that.
are you comfortable discussing those, or not because
Of jinxing them.
well, is it jinxing, or is it, are you paranoid? Do you think someone's going to steal your ideas?
Oh, yeah, no, I don't know. I guess
I am
that
never.
too.
I am.
You're never
I am
scared of them. Who else
never
would
at
want to
all.
direct?
Exactly. I'll tell people the whole plot of the movie, and I do quite often. I
Oh
have
my
a zombie fetus movie called Ankle Biters that I've been trying to get going, and it's based on a real minister in Wisconsin who got arrested giving aborted fetuses Christian burials. So I thought, well, this just writes itself, zombie fetuses. And it's funny. It's people don't mind the fact that there's a lot of fetuses get killed in the movie, but they have a problem that the end is pro-choice. Like when they read it, they go, it's a little heavy-handed. It's like, no, it's not heavy-handed. You're worried about the politics of my zombie fetus movie. So if anybody wants to make Ankle Biters, it's not good
Oh my
luck,
God.
or
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
the other, I've been trying to make this gay Billy Jack movie forever, and I mean, it's not gay Billy Jack. I mean, it's a character. He's a Billy Jack type. It's just this lone,
Right.
which is very much like, he's this outsider ex-Marine who got kicked out during Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Uh-huh.
And he's turned his back on society, and then he comes into this homophobic town and kicks ass.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So anyone else wants to do that? I was I was with my wife at the time, and I said, I'm really tired. I'm really tired of being broke. I'm gonna write a genre picture. So I started writing this movie, and
Hmm.
I was about 50 pages in, and she goes, "How's it going?" I go, "Well, he's gay now," and, and she goes, "We're just gonna keep renting. Is that it? We're just gonna keep
Yeah.
renting."
So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions now. And specifically, I mean, you and I became friends recently via Twitter. I can't remember who followed who first, but uh, you sent me the link to See Lucky Me, and I saw it and was
Call
blown
me lucky.
away.
Call
Call
me
me
lucky.
lucky. Oh my
Call me
God,
lucky.
there we go. Call me lucky. Jesus freaking Christ. And
You're really.
yeah, I'm
Who
batting
followed?
100
I'm
right
trying to
now.
figure out who followed who is where I'm at still. I'm trying to figure out who followed who. I may have been following you.
I don't
Maybe
think so.
you don't think that?
I think I followed you, and then you followed me, and I freaked out. Remember, because I direct messaged you, was like, "Oh
Yeah,
my God, you
that
made
was
my
it.
day!" Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you were being
And
a
you were like,
mental case.
"You're an
Yeah,
idiot." Yeah,
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I was. I don't know
you're
if I would
very
have said.
dismissive. It's
I
like,
Yeah.
why would you care if
Yeah,
I
I
follow?
thought I didn't think I think idiot is harsh, but I may have said something along those lines.
Yes, no, you were very harsh. You
Well,
were like,
it's just absurd. You're a super talented filmmaker, and why wouldn't I follow you? I also follow many Bigfoot researchers, so you know.
so really, it's absolutely neither here nor
No, I'm just saying
there.
other great minds.
Oh,
That's
I
what I'm
see.
saying. That's
Gotcha.
what I'm saying.
I'm in good
So,
company. Okay, good. As long
all
as
right, all right. I'm ready
okay,
for
so
your hard hitting
so
questions. No
okay, you're
softballs.
no
All right.
softballs allowed. All right. So yeah, I mean, I did want to talk a little bit about Call Me Lucky and what the origin story of it was. I mean, you've known Barry a really long time.
Yeah, since I was a teenager. So the origin of it was because I feel like I have to tell people a little bit about the movie before I explain the
Sure.
origin.
Yeah.
So Barry's a comedian. He's a mentor of mine. He influenced a lot of comedians. He gave a lot of people their start, be it folks like Stephen Wright or Dennis Leary or Paula Poundstone and
Well, because in addition
myself.
to being an actual stand-up himself, he started a
Yeah,
venue for people to to do it, right, in Boston. He
right.
started, yeah.
And then even before that, he was running the show that was near my hometown of Syracuse that Tom
Oh,
Kenny and myself went to, which Tom
right.
Kenny is not the name drop, but he's the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants, and I've known him since I was 6. So Barry took an ad out. We answered it. We went to to his show. But even though, and then for folks who aren't familiar with Barry, it's not that he's not well known, but he's a political satirist. And my favorite Barry Crimmins joke he says people say Barry, if you don't love this country, why don't you leave it? And he says, because I don't want to be victimized by its foreign policy. So so a very sharp guy. But I would have made this movie about Barry even if he wasn't a comedian, because as an adult, dealing with his child abuse, he was raped when he was 4 by a neighbor over a period of time, and and while he was processing this and looking for other people who were victims of this, it was in the early to mid 90s. He got online, and what he found was people exchanging child pornography, and he went to AOL and they didn't do anything about it because AOL was really the only game in town at that point. And in the movie, he ends up on the floor of a judicial hearing on the Senate, and all the senators are just boasting about how they aren't online, how they don't understand how computers work. So
Yeah.
it's hard for us to wrap our brains around that period. So when Barry, he ends up uh, posing his 2 kids, getting all this evidence against these pedophiles, and he basically took AOL to the floor of the Senate and embarrassed them for their practices. And doing that, there's a big shift in Barry. He went from being a guy who was a curmudgeon and always mad to just a guy who's a curmudgeon and occasionally mad. So no, but there was definitely a shift in him, and then
Yeah.
he was able to focus himself on helping other people and making his act just 100% political. There was no more fluff in it. It was just,
Right.
so so, but it wasn't about the fact that his change. Although I think that's, if the movie works for people, hopefully that's a, that to me is a good story to tell. But it just, when he went to the floor of the Senate and took on these as a small little outsider, and took on this, giant company. It really, when he did that, it just felt like a Frank Capra story to me. So that was in the
Yeah.
mid '90s, and I knew I wanted to make the movie all the way back then. I
Huh.
tried a couple swipes at writing screenplays for it, and
Yeah, now talk about that a little bit. So was that did you consider a doc at the beginning, or was it just right away
no,
your brain went to narrative? You just thought,
no,
and
no.
how is it going to be structured? Like what was that going to look like?
It was,
Was it going to be straight up the same story, or were you going to sort of shift things a little bit, or?
yeah. I mean, well, the reason that I wanted to make it as a narrative was because I didn't want to do a documentary, because I didn't want Barry to have to relive the telling of these
Mm,
events,
mm, mm,
and I was concerned for his well-being,
mm.
and uh, so the structure isn't so different, because I started it kind of the same, where you didn't know who this guy was, and you were wondering who he was, and you saw these comics, kind of being afraid of him. He was backstage, and uh, and then he goes on the stage, and then you see that he's funny. So that kind of, in a weird way, is how the movie ended up being. And then it opened with the night he disclosed on stage in Boston,
Right.
which there was no footage of. So that was one of the things I wish there was.
Yeah.
But when the big reasons were, I didn't want my friend to have to go through this, and
Well, and when it was closer to the actual time, it would have probably been a lot tougher.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's when I had started it that long ago. So over the
Right.
years,
Right. That makes
and
sense.
you're aware of that, that Robin Williams was my pal, and
Yeah.
we discussed, it was the idea that it would probably have been him, playing it. That was the idea.
Mm.
And we talked about playing Barry, and then it was kind of funny, even because I've been trying to make this movie for so long, and then and then Robin was just like saying, I'm too old. I'm too old to play him now.
Well,
and
and did you actually try to go out with a script and with Robin and get funding, like Robin in the main
no,
role? Never got
no,
that far.
no,
Yeah.
no, and I probably wouldn't have done that anyways.
Mm.
Like when I got World's Greatest Dad going,
Hmm.
it wasn't they didn't know Robin was attached.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I kind of always don't. I don't like doing that, and I should, because I could probably not be 53 and renting, but with roommates, it's all it's all
Living like
coming
a
up.
college
It
student.
it's all coming up Goldthwait. This is my
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
This is my year. Now we're renting a house with a washer and dryer. So
Yeah, baby.
hey, look,
Living the life.
you, I'm an artist. I don't know if you know that. I remember telling Robin when we made World's Greatest Dad. I said, you can't make art in a mansion. And he goes, so I have to sell my house. I was like, no, you're gonna go stay in a chain quality hotel with the rest of us schmucks. That's all. He's like, oh, okay. So he kind of liked the whole, um, it was like a pirate ship. He liked the fact that he felt he was getting away with murder, being out so far outside the system.
Yeah.
But so it was Robin that suggested I make it as a documentary. That's how that came about, and
And
that was,
when did he suggest that? Like how long did it take you to make it? Was
well, it
it?
was February 2014 was when we
Oh,
started
wow.
filming, and that's like he suggested it. right around then,
Wow.
and he said, "I'll give you some money to start,"
Wow.
and that's how the movie got started. And then MPI, the company that ended up financing the rest of the movie, stepped in, and they were very nice. You know, they had released my Bigfoot movie, so it's just so crazy for a film company to go, well, we had luck with this Bigfoot movie. We should try
Let's
to
do this
really
documentary about
let's do the
child rape.
let's do the baby rape documentary.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
So
Well, good for them. And
yeah,
it
really
was
good for them.
that's a short amount of time to make a doc. A year
Yeah.
later you were at Sundance with it, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
incredible.
but I didn't know that the doc when I was at Sundance, there's other filmmakers and they're like, oh, we started because there was a documentary dinner and they're like, oh, we
Mhm.
started our movie 7 years ago and we
Yeah,
started ours 3 years ago, and then
yeah,
I said,
yeah.
when did you start yours? I was like February, and none of them said, hey, that's great. They're just like,
No, they're just
oof.
angry. I
No,
know.
they weren't mad. No,
No?
they just assumed it was terrible. They're like, "Poof, well, yeah."
Oh, I see.
I don't
Interesting.
know. Maybe they were mad. No, they didn't. Again, it was kind
Just
of funny because
jealous.
because all those docs that were there at that thing, they were all, um, they were all attached, or not all, but most of them were attached or made by folks that had much larger, bigger companies behind them.
Mm.
So I was where I like to be. I was a little bit on the invisible side, you know.
Okay,
About
so
now
um
we need to talk
about
about
yes,
you. Oh,
about
you're
me.
interviewing me though? Yeah,
Yeah, well,
that's
it's a
ridiculous.
conversation, but I do have a couple burning questions, and we can turn it back if there's time. But my big burning question for you, Mr. Goldthwait, because you had
I think you are dodging questions.
I'm not dodging questions. I'm dying to know the answer to the questions I'm about to ask you. So
All right.
since, I was asked to interview you, ish.
I think we're wired a lot alike. I think we have a million things in common,
Yeah. Thank
and
you.
I thought maybe you were just acting like me and trying to dodge questions, but maybe
Yeah, maybe. But well, I think we are both more comfortable being in the driver's seat, possibly. That could be part of it. But
yeah, which I
um,
think people would think is yeah. So we're both lobbying to
yeah,
grab the wheel. Okay,
exactly, exactly. But you're gonna let me because you're nice that way, or at least for the
because
moment.
I'm a gentleman.
Because
Yeah,
you're a gentleman. I was gonna say that. But I am really curious about when, because you had this whole gigantic career,
right.
life before you became an independent filmmaker. Now, in the middle of that, you directed your first film, Shakes the Clown. But what I'm curious about is, when did you start writing, like the last few films you've made since then?
Yeah,
Starting with Sleeping Dogs Lie, which was called Stay at Sundance. In what year was that? 2006.
yeah. I think 2006. Yeah,
So that film onwards, like
yeah. That
I've
was the
never, I
difference.
it feels like
Yeah.
there's a shift there, and I'm wondering, when was it that you knew that that was what you wanted to do, that was where your, sort of your passion lay, and how long had you been writing scripts, and like just that, all that kind of
Yeah. Well,
story.
the whole time that I'd been in show business, I was always, sometimes I was pitching them and getting paid to write them, and they wouldn't get made. But the movies, I wasn't being true to myself.
Right.
I was trying to write movies that I thought would get made, so they
Hmm.
would
Hmm.
be, or something for me to be in,
Right.
and
Vehicles. Yeah.
I was really, really beyond frustrated with that. And
Mm.
I also didn't even realize I really hated being um, known. I know it sounds weird, but I didn't like all the focus and hoopla around being famous, especially for a persona that wasn't me. I mean, I didn't dislike the persona. I just didn't have anything in common with it the older I got.
Right.
So no decisions were made. I questioned if I had the ability to tell a story on paper, that I really didn't even think I could write a screenplay. So I wrote stay because I questioned if I could write a movie. I
Hmm.
didn't think I could because I had no success with it. So I instead of trying to write a movie that I thought would get made, I wrote the movie that came out of me.
That you wanted to write. Yeah. And
Yeah,
and the other difference I should point out too, we should point out is that Shake starred you.
yeah.
You've never been in any of your other movies, right? That
No, like
yeah,
little cameos,
little cameos.
but the cameos aren't me being cute. The cameos are really because no one else would do it, you know.
You were on set that day.
Yeah, like
Because you had to be. Yeah.
in Stay, I'd play Roy Orbison's bare ass, because nobody else would drop trow at that point. I burnt out all goodwill, and
That is a really good
I
segue.
couldn't do that now because I have a nice tattoo on my ass that I don't think Roy Orbison would have. But so whenever I show up in a movie, it means something went wrong because I show up in World's Greatest Dad, and that was supposed to be Guillermo from the Jimmy Kimmel Show,
Hmm.
and he couldn't get out of work, so it was me.
Uh-huh.
Fortunately, I had a suit with me because my dad wasn't well, and I thought he might pass away, so I needed to have nice clothes if I went to my dad's
Jeez.
funeral.
God.
So
That's
so so
really dark.
fortunately, no, on a good, my dad didn't die, and I
Good.
got to wear the suit,
Good.
and then he
Perfect.
passed away later. But yeah, so I had because as a Goldthwait, you don't travel with suits. You
No,
suits are for funerals or court.
I see.
You know, that was what it was called in my house, court clothes. If you had a jacket on, it's like, why is why is Bobby in his court clothes?
Oh my.
Um, yeah, yeah,
Well, it sounds like you, having been on probation and being, a
I
threat to
didn't.
American, it seems
Yeah.
like you should just always have your court clothes with you
I
just in
should just
case.
travel in my court clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I should
Yeah.
at least have them with me. Yeah, or some sort of dehydrated court clothes that I could just add water to. So,
Well, so we got off
uh,
track. So you wrote this script to see if you could
yeah,
write a movie you
because
actually liked.
I didn't think I could.
Hmm.
So I wrote it one weekend when I was on the road, and I had a manager at the time, and he had an emergency meeting with his staff and I, and he was like, he said, "This is a really well written script," and I was like, "Oh, thanks," and that did mean a lot to me. I didn't think anyone thought I could write at that point, and
Hmm.
then he said, "But we're not going to send it out because we're afraid of what people are going to think about your mental health." And it's funny to say that now, but I was really kind of, you know, I was really wigged out. I was driving home, and then finally I had to think, oh, well, what does this mean? And I thought, well, it means that I'm on the wrong path because
Yeah.
this is what I really want to do.
Yeah.
And
Is he still your manager?
no, I
Yeah.
fired him
Yeah. It
like
seems like
the
that would
next.
be a good sign of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was just like, hey, this is the kind of thing I want to be doing.
Hmm.
Which was, it was it was all, I just stumbled into this second act. I mean, I love telling stories. I love directing.
Hmm.
I should have known I wanted to do that all my life. When I looked at a movie poster, I didn't look at
Hmm.
who was in it or anything. I always looked right to see who written and directed by. I wanted to know who made
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So it seems like I probably, so yeah, so I wrote Stay, and then Sarah, my ex, she read it about a year later, and she goes, "This is a good script. We should make it." And I said, "Well, I don't have any money," so we just started. She said, "We'll just make it. We'll just start." So we used a crew from Craigslist, and we shot
Oh,
it for 20 grand, and
of your own
we
money, you just like made it.
yeah, and my friend Marty and another friend, yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if I told you the story. We there was a scene in the garage, and we didn't have a garage because this garage we couldn't use. It was
Hmm.
filled with crap. So the neighbor across the house from where we were filming had moved, and the house was for sale.
Hmm.
And so we broke the lock
Oh
off
my
the
God.
door, and then we just
Oh my God.
filmed. We put the equipment in there, and I said to the crew, who were all young kids from Craigslist, I go, "This is a really sensitive scene for the actors, so we have to be really quiet while we're over here." And and I remember Ian, he goes, "You don't have a permit again, do you?" And I go, "Dude, I don't know whose fucking house this is." So we shot the whole scene. It's a pivotal scene in the movie, and then as we're loading out that morning, it was really beautiful. As we're loading out, we get out, we and the moving truck pulls in. So it
Oh
was
my
great.
God.
Yeah, it was really
That
sweet.
is
It was really cool.
incredible.
Yeah,
That is
and
pure guerrilla
we
filmmaking serendipity. That's beautiful.
but we
It's a great story.
giggled and laughed like we were all
Oh,
stoned. I mean, we couldn't stop
yeah.
laughing.
Well, it's also that that shooting all night, punch drunk, 5 a.m. That's just a lovely feeling.
But
Um,
you've done that over
I
and over
have. I'm
again.
remembering it. Yeah, I'm remembering it very, very, very vividly.
I don't know if we discussed this, but not that it's that important, but when I was directed the Kimmel show, every day I would have a different dumb hat um, on purpose, like so so, and it was because so I couldn't take myself
You sell
serious.
too seriously. It's
You
so
can't.
freaking important. That is brilliant. And I love the actual physical reminder to yourself.
Yeah,
Then you just
so
have
I
to
would
look in the
be,
mirror every once in a while to make
or
sure
just
it
that
registers.
when you're the director and you walk through the
It's
set and you're wearing a
reflected back through
you're
other
wearing
people. Yeah,
you're wearing a
yeah.
fez
Right.
or yeah
Oh, that's great.
turban,
I might have to
and
steal that. Oh my
it's
God.
really helpful. It's like if you
It's
start
great.
screaming at people and you're in a sombrero, you're a douche. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
just you know
Did
I
yes, go ahead.
No, I remember once when I was Dragon Kimmel and Michael Stipe was on. He's like, "Why are you wearing a sombrero?" And I explained it to him, and he's like, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "That's a really good idea." And
Yeah.
and then he was really nice. And then on the show, he said some very complimentary things about me as a director. And Kimmel goes, "I wish he would bring some of that to work here."
uh, um, I just have to draw this parallel that I don't know why it didn't really occur to me before, but I do think that there's a lot. I mean, not that I was a super famous comedian before my life as a filmmaker, but we're similarly aged, and our first feature films that were the films that we wanted to make, in your case, you'd made one before, but they both came out the same year. My first feature,
Oh
which
yeah,
was at Slam Dance in Park City in 2006, won that
yeah.
festival. The year that Stay was your film was at Sundance, which is really interesting to think about. And then since then, we've actually made a similar number of films. I've made 6 films in like 9 years, and you've made how many? 7?
Yeah, but it's who cares about numbers? I'm ahead of you.
You
Yeah,
win.
and then till Schwamberg comes in, and then
And then we're
we're
both
all
toast.
we're
Yeah.
all chumps. No, no, we have such we have the same parallel in regards to the not only our lives, but the time that we made these movies, the
Yeah.
kind of movies they are. It's
Mhm.
really weird.
It
But
is.
what made you well, I'm not going to say that because in my life there wasn't one event and stuff. But what were you doing before you started making these
Well, I
personal movies?
I'm sort of like you when you said a little while ago that you felt like you should have known, from long, long ago, like what, that was what you were supposed to be doing. And I knew that early on too. Like I always loved films so much. I was just in love with cinema from a very early age. And I remember trying to decide, I got a undergraduate degree in acting. It was from the School of Drama, but my focus was on acting at the University of Washington. And I remember applying. I was about to apply to grad school and I really wanted an excuse to move to New York City, but I couldn't just do that. I couldn't just move there. I did eventually, but I felt like, oh, I need some sort of structural reason, so I was going to apply to like Juilliard and NYU. But I remember trying to decide, do you want to apply to acting grad school or to directing, which is what I really wanted to do. And I was just too, it seemed so beyond my kin, as they say. Like it just seemed terrifying
Like,
to me. I knew that
right.
I knew that they cost millions upon millions of dollars, and that as the
Oh,
director, I would be responsible for somebody else's millions of dollars. They weren't going to be my millions of dollars, and it just terrified me. I found it really intimidating. And so I
what
just said, oh, I'll just try to get into an acting graduate program. And I got into like the final round. I was like at the top of the waiting list or something, according to an insider friend of mine at NYU, and didn't get in, luckily, because I mean, I'm sure that would have been a fine life too, but I'm kind of happy. I feel like it was a turning point because I was so disappointed at that point in my life, but I don't know if I'd be doing what I'm doing now if I had, gone that
and
directions.
so this is all at the same period of time where I no longer uh, where I shouldn't say no longer. I really wasn't enjoying acting.
Right.
Like I turned my I jokingly say, that I retired from acting the same time they stopped hiring me,
Uh-huh.
but I really did turn my back on it. Like
Yeah.
when I
Because
said,
you were making a living and you actually could have kept on making a living, I'm sure.
well, I couldn't have, I could keep making I don't know about what I'd be doing, but if I was willing to, yeah, keep trucking it, keep auditioning and keep exploiting this persona,
Mhm.
I could be making a living as a nostalgia act and as a wacky neighbor. But it wasn't making me happy at all. I
Right,
was
right.
miserable,
Yeah,
miserable,
yeah.
and I didn't realize that was what was making me miserable. I just was miserable,
Right, right, right.
because but when you start telling stories and making them, you it's it's the whole thing. It's
Yeah,
everything,
it is.
and that's why it's like, even I'm grateful that I can make a living doing these other things like stand up and directing on other people's shows.
Mhm.
It often feels a little bit like an intrusion on what makes me happy. I don't resent them, but if I get away from the writing, and if I get away from the making my own stuff, I mean that's why, like, can I make a living with the movies I make? My movies make hundreds of dollars, and the answer is no, I can't. But
Yeah.
I choose to make a living so I can keep making
Well, and
movies.
that's the other parallel we have, is that was why I started trying to get into TV directing, was so that I could continue to be true to myself as a filmmaker. And occasionally and not worry about, oh, I have to make a movie that is going to make a whole bunch of money
Uh,
so that I can live, right? I mean, you do the same thing. Like we both do TV episodic work, and you worked
but
on Kimmel as well, and that's kind of like a little, and then you also do other stuff too. I know you still do stand up around the country and stuff, but
but
we have these like money gigs so that you can continue to make the movies that you want to make, right?
Right,
Which is what I
I
do.
mean, but the reason I stay away from big studio pictures as a director isn't
Hmm.
I don't feel any responsibility. Like the it's
Right.
I wouldn't be like going, oh no, I'm gonna blow this corporation's money. That wouldn't, because if it doesn't make $100 million, for me it's I can't listen to notes. I can't talk
Yeah.
to. I can't. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's great when you work with people that you respect, or you work on shows that are fun, I fortunately work with a lot of comics, so I love comics. I think I love comics where you love actors,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, and but but for me, the reason I can't do those studio comedies is just because I know I'm going to tell everyone to cram it right away.
Yeah.
I don't make my living, but I've never been happier.
Yeah.
Or I should say fulfilled. America is all about
Right.
being. It's the People's Republic of spring break. You're just supposed to be having this great time all the time, and people can't
People's Republic of
understand.
Spring Break is really funny.
Like, but if I, if there's a lot to be said for being fulfilled. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. And right. Right. Well, I think we were supposed to talk for like 22 minutes, and oh my God, it's literally been an hour. That's
Oh
amazing.
my God.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
a
that
special.
went fast.
Well, we'll have to do another one so I can ask you questions.
Part 2. Yeah,
So
exactly.
you'll have to relinquish the steering wheel. So we got to put a bow on this conversation.
Yes. Nice
All
way to
right.
put it.
All right.
Okay.
So
All right. Well, nice talking to you.
Yeah, right back at you.
Bye.
This is Nick Dawson from Talkhouse Film, and you've been listening to Lynn, Shelton and Bobcat Goldthwait on the Talkhouse Film podcast. This episode was engineered and edited by Elia Einhorn. For more filmmakers talking film and TV, visit thetalkhouse.com/film. Subscribe to Talkhouse Film and Talkhouse Music podcasts on iTunes, where you can find all our previous episodes. And while you're there, please rate and review if you can.
All right. Do these pants make my ass look big? No. Yeah, no is the right answer on that one. Yeah. I was just checking to see if you were up to speed. Yeah.